That kind of took a toll on us, my brother and I, also because my father decided to up and leave.
Hey guys, it's Donnie here, and I just want to let you know that we've recently launched a content development company, and this company helps people get social content. You need to put out a lot of content nowadays to get engagement out there in all your social platforms. Well, we've come up with a really cool way to help you get videos, blog posts, memes, social posters, and infographics for whatever social site you need. So check us out at successchamps.us and learn more about how you can get social content for your social media.
Support for this podcast comes from Point Blank Safety Services and Blue Family Fund. Point Blank Safety Services does safety differently. We know everyone is on a journey, and we want to make sure you get where you're going safely. Professional, trained, ready. There's really no comparison. Here's why hiring Point Blank Safety for your next project will make all the difference and save you huge amounts of stress and hassle. Point Blank Safety Services provides certified, uniformed police officers for a full suite of armed guard services. Don't leave the safety of your project to chance. If you're ready to make sure safety truly comes first for your next project, then visit us at pointblanksafety.com.
You're listening to Donnie's Success Champions, where I believe everybody is on a journey. Life is all about the stories you can tell and teach later. You're going to hear the stories of people who have overcome hardships, failures in life to find success along their journey. All right, guys, it's going to be another killer episode. I'm bringing on a Navy buddy of mine, and we've already been having a hell of a conversation, busting his chops about the Navy. But I'm Donnie Boivin. You're listening to Success Champions. We're bringing on Charles Mund. So, Charles, my friend, welcome to the show, brother. Please share with us your stories.
Man, thank you for having me. I always appreciate getting on here and talking with you. And oh my God, you're even worse than I imagined when we first started talking. Holy shit! Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to change my opinion about things. Not the show or anything, but just of life now because of you. Okay. No, my name is Charles Mund. I was born and raised in southern Wisconsin. Lived all over in the southern part of that state. Got moved around a lot. My family, we split apart when I was really young, when I was 8 years old. I was born in Waukesha, Wisconsin, which is a little town right outside of Milwaukee, and then lived, man, in the most awesome of places. It's called Mukwonago, Wisconsin. Yeah. Some of those names, I know. You can't even... I'm
not even going to fathom how you spell that, let alone,
Yeah. And it's kind of, I think it's translatable to Land of the Bear or something like that in Algonquin or Chippewa or whatever it is. But really, really beautiful place. I was raised on a lake, which was really cool as, a young boy. I would play around with all the snapping turtles and, go fishing every day and, ice fishing in the winters and stuff like that. So it was a really cool childhood. Up until I turned 8 years old. When I turned 8 years old, my parents divorced. And I had a little brother, of course, as well. And it was hard on us, especially kind of what prompted the divorce. The divorce was because my father was, with another woman. And she was my aunt, pretty much. She was the maid of honor at my parents' wedding. And that kind of took a toll on us, my brother and I, also because my father decided to up and leave. And that was really rough for a little while there. My mother, thank God, God love her, she made the choice to follow him to Madison, Wisconsin. And, whether or not he liked it, we were going to be in his life because she knew we needed that as young boys. So we moved to Madison. And just to clarify, too, that wasn't my real aunt. that was, like just in case somebody's wondering.
It's not West Virginia.
No, it's Wisconsin. Okay, we have some rules and regulations we follow. But yeah, she was my mother's best friend. So just to clear that up. But no, I moved to Madison, lived on the east side of Madison there, and we started off poor, because after they split, what happens, money goes in all different directions. The house wasn't paid for. All of, the 100 possibilities of things that could go wrong went wrong. And, we were jumping around a lot, trying to get in, living in apartments and on the wrong side of the tracks, I'm not going to sit here and say that Madison, Wisconsin is, like Chicago or Milwaukee, but it's definitely one of those spots where the bad guys go when they want to go chill out for a little bit because there's too much heat. Madison was one of those spots everybody went. But we got moved around a lot while in Madison, jumped from school to school. It was pretty difficult just to kind of like get our feet situated in just not even schooling, but, friendships and just trying to get a routine and family life because it was very difficult. We were doing the Monday, Tuesday with Dad, Wednesday, Thursday with Mom, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday we switched. So it was a lot of jumping around for us, my brother and I.
God, and then the mind game of you're going from Mom's house to now Dad and his girlfriend, who was your mom's best friend. That dynamic, holy crap.
Oh, it was insane for a little while there. And I'm not a perfect person by any stretch of the imagination. When I was a child, I was way less a good person than what I try to be today. I started getting down the wrong path there about 12 years old. It was difficult on me to do all the things that was expected of me with schooling. And, I was playing a lot of football back then and everything else that my parents were pushing on us at the time. Even the holidays were rough because we had 4 Christmases every year. And what's funny to me now is I think about it, and I would say about 75% of America or, families nowadays, they go through the same type of thing. So yeah, it definitely took a toll on us. And I would say I was about 12 years old when I started getting into drugs pretty heavily. It started to because of what they said I had ADHD, and I'm actually on my way of getting tested right now again for it, which is the most fucked up test in the world. I don't know if you've ever taken this test. So what they did is they stuck me in a fucking room, in a dark room for 25 minutes. And this is what they tell you to do. No, I'm dead ass serious. And what's funny is I just talked to a senior chief buddy of mine that went and took his ADHD test less than a week ago, and it's the same exact fucking test. Because I imagined that this was like some, wild, like the 90s, and people just didn't know what the fuck they were looking for. No, It's the same exact fucking test for adults and children. So, no, they put you in a fucking room, they turn off all the lights, and they put you in front of a computer, right? What they say is they give you a mouse. There's like no keyboard. They give you a mouse, and they say, look at the top of the screen. Every time that light flickers, click the mouse. And then they walk the fuck out. I swear to God. No. I'm not making this shit up.
Dude, I'd have thrown that monitor at a fucking wall.
But you know what I was doing, right? I was literally sitting there not giving a fuck about what was going on with that button up there at the top or the light at the top. I literally sat there and counted how many times I could click in a row without my finger hurting, just to do it. Because I'm like, I don't want to fucking
watch this, right?
But anyways, I was diagnosed with ADHD. So I was diagnosed with ADHD and had to start taking Adderall, which was really fucked up and something I'm still thinking about this day, because if I end up still having ADHD, I don't ever want to take that shit again, because it was weird. I would sit in a room via school and I would be watching what was happening in front of me and not paying attention to it, but taking everything in at the same time. It was just weird. It didn't make me feel like I was me. So what I started doing was selling it because I didn't want to take it anymore. That's just what I did.
Right.
And,
I grew up with some buddies that sold their Ritalin, so I get it.
Yeah, it messed me up, and I was like, I don't want it. I don't want it anymore. You can have it, $20, that kind of thing. So during that time too, I started, experimenting with drugs, marijuana being a big part of that, huge part of it. It became kind of like a stoner there for a while. And, I don't consider weed to be a gateway drug, as a lot of people say, but for me, it definitely was, because I was like, you know what? Now that was all right. Let's try that. And
on that point, I was a similar way. And only what I mean by that is I looked at it as a gateway drug because it was illegal, but easily accessible. I'm like, what else can you fucking try? You're already pushing the envelope for something that's not dangerous, that's not really going to hurt you. For Christ's sake, all weed does is turn people into architects, because I bet you can make a bong out of that.
Yeah, you turn into MacGyver.
Right.
And you just start looking around the room like, hey, what? I could do something with that. But you know what? I think one of the big things that people don't talk about enough is drug dealers are really good salesmen. Like
they are.
Like most of them they're not all those back alley people too that, are, like, hey, come over here, kid. No, it's like, they're cool. They're actually fun to fuck with and talk to. And they're like, hey, they fucking upsell you. Like, you're at
first round's on me.
Walgreens or something. Yeah. Try these out. Maybe if you like it, hey, come on back.
Right.
But yeah, so it started getting bad at that point, because I didn't really have – the only money I could get was from getting, selling Adderall or, something else that I could pawn off. I started stealing. That was just the next step for me. And it was a terrible step because I started stealing from everyone that I could. And I fucking hate myself for saying this kind of shit, but I started stealing from people I didn't know. I started robbing people, which ironically enough, and I'll probably get into later, I met my first wife after robbing a guy at a buddy's house. Like, that's how I remember. It's sick. It's sad. Okay, I get that. But that's where I met her, Oh, it was a rough day. Anyways.
You know you're doing well in life when you meet your future wife after robbing somebody. You're hanging out the right parties, bud. I'm just saying.
It was so bad. No.
And just for the listeners, we're laughing at this stuff, but you got to. This is life. This is the shit that you go through. And I've got things in my childhood I look back on. I'm like, really? You were that fucking retarded. You did that stupid shit. So we're not making light of it. It's just, if you don't laugh at the things you've done in your life, then you're going to be a miserable bastard all your entire life.
Yeah, I agree. From where I was, even, like the last time I can remember doing anything like that, I was 17 years old, 18 years old, and to me now, that's 14 years ago. I've gone through it with my family, trying to pay them back in, little ways here and there. And, thank God my family loves me and, saw me through those times and stayed with, didn't ostracize me completely, and I'm thankful for that. And, it did get really bad though. And I know I can't allude to this because, yeah, I was robbing people. I was stealing money from my family members all over the place. I took checks from my father and wrote checks out to myself and would cash them, and forge his signature. I would walk into my mom's room and she had a little dresser right next to her, and I knew that's where she kept her cash. I even broke into the house next door to me when I lived in these condos because I knew how to break in through the basement because they were interconnected for the washer and dryers. And I found a way to get in there, and I snuck up into the guy's house and stole, and I'm not joking, he had an envelope over, it had to be like $2 or $3 grand in an envelope in $100 bills. And I walked up in there and I was like, okay, I'm taking one of these. I'm taking one of these. If I take all of these, he's going to know, you know, and, you know, it's that type of shit that even with that $100, you know, I took it and it sucks, but I spent it all on drugs. And, you know, I didn't dive into things that other people were starting to, because that was about the time my cousin actually almost killed himself after taking heroin and thinking that he could fly Alpha Carport in Milwaukee. So stuff like that, you know, like the most I dabbled was, you know, weed and then shrooms and, you know, like stuff like that, you know, nothing too messed up. But then I started to sell it myself, and, you know, that became a real problem. My mother, about that same age when I was talking about when I was 12 or 13, was diagnosed with dermatomyositis. And I'm pretty damn sure I pronounced that correctly. Dermatomyositis. It's a 1 in a million disease, honestly. There are very, very few people that get it. It's a form of muscular sclerosis. So she's still dealing with it. She's actually gone through, I want to say about 6 different surgeries for brain tumors and, you know, other type of muscular issues within her body. I even had to get flown off the ship a couple of years ago because she had a brain tumor, and she was getting flown out to Virginia for them to do the surgery. At 12 or 13, that's when she was diagnosed, and things just, you know, of course, cascaded in a way. And that's why I feel so bad, too, of what I was doing to her, because she was going through so much, and it was me lashing out, you know. And what's really sad, too, is that's when I started experimenting with her pills. And that was the 90s, bro, and early 2000s. So the big drugs hadn't been even figured out yet that they were big drugs, like Oxycontin. Oof, she had 60 of those on hand and, you know, plenty of refills coming. And she had other pills, too. I don't know what they were, you know. It was pretty all over the place. To this day, she takes 48 pills a day. And, you know, a lot of them are just to get off the side effects of the other pills and stuff like that. But that was a huge part, big component of my life, too, was taking her pills, because that's when she caught me. And that was a pretty terrible fucking day. She was just sitting in the living room, and I had already taken about 2 or 3 of them. I don't even know what they were, honestly. They weren't muscle relaxers or anything like that. It was something weird. I can't even tell you what they were. But she had sitting out right there in the living room in the apartment that we were living in, and I took them. And I remember this. I put them in my drawers, honestly. Like, put my hand down there too, like I was walking around with my dick in my hand. Like, yeah, I can't hear the bottle rattling, you know. Like, that's what happened. Is she heard the rattling of the bottle in my pants, and she already had a bunch of ideas about what I was doing and why I was doing it, you know. And she called me out on it straight up, and I don't remember anything else. But what happened from there, I guess, was I cussed her out, started screaming at her and just going off, and she was biting me and scratching me to get the pills away from me. And just for understanding this as well, you know, in the backstory of my mom, my mom's father, who was an alcoholic, and she's got 7 brothers, and she had 7 brothers and sisters. Okay. They all lived in, you know, the north side of Milwaukee, you know, so they're gangster motherfuckers. I don't care what anybody says. Those are some crazy white people. Watch out. Okay. But her father and her youngest brother, my uncle and my grandfather, of course, died within a week of each other before I was born. But my uncle died because of pills. He actually was trying to grab his pills and ended up taking my grandfather's pills and drinking and overdosed, pretty much. I mean, the chemicals, they didn't, you know, align well, I guess. But that's why she had such a fear of it and was so worried about what was happening to me and what I was doing. And that's why she went as wild as she did on me, is because I'm sure those things started bubbling up inside of her and, you know, affected her, and she did what she did. But when she did that, she told me, and I don't remember it 100%, but I took the lamp. She took the pills from me, and I took the lamp that was sitting right next to her, and it was one of those vase lamps, and I threw it at the wall, and it busted everywhere, and she just started crying. My mother is 5 foot flat, okay, and I'm no huge giant myself. I'm 5'9". I think back then I was about 180 pounds, but she was terrified, and she called the police on me. And when they came in and they took the story, they took me away. And that's when I got sent to the shelter home, and I couldn't live with my family for months after that. And I was living with some wild ass individuals that were doing stuff even worse than me. But that kind of shit really messed me up. Thank God what happened, and it was about a year and a half before that too. I got to backtrack just a little bit because there's a big part of my life that I haven't talked about, and that was military school. So I went to St. John's Northwestern Military Academy, which is in Delafield, Wisconsin. It's about 45 minutes away from Madison, because I got asked a question because I was already going through some other troubles during that time, of course. I know, weird, right? Yeah. Giving up enough information. You guys know I'm fucked up. I was fucked up when I was young. But the judge and my father, they gave me two options. They said, hey, either you can go to juvie for, a while, or you can go to military school for the rest of the semester, the rest of the year. And I was like, fucking send me to military school. Yes, please get me the fuck out of Dodge. Let me have some fun. Let me go do some shit. Well, I'm gonna tell you the truth, because I've been in the Navy now for almost 14 years, and some of the shit that went on at military school, it was more military than the shit that I see in the Navy today. It was I'm dead serious, and I don't want it to be taken literal, because there was conformity, and there's whatever. The truth of the matter is like, we would get into fights at military school, right? And our punishment literally was go fucking paint that wall right there and do that for the next fucking 8 hours. Okay? Stop fighting. You try and punch somebody in the military nowadays, especially me being a fucking chief, I'm getting kicked the fuck out, especially if it's a junior guy or something like that. Oh my God, But anyways, no, but I was sent to military school, and that was one hell of a fucking experience. I still sold drugs there too, but it was more like cigarettes and, dip and stuff like that. And I was making a whole bunch of money off that shit too. Military school was crazy. It's where I really found out that I had something to give, at the same time as being rambunctious as fuck, which I got a funny story actually. So I was in military school. We didn't have a football team, but I played football from fucking 5th grade all the way up to senior in high school. Love football. But I got brought on to play rugby, which if any of y'all have played rugby, it is fucking football on crack. Like, to this day, I can't believe I was able to actually play that shit, because man, it's non-fucking stop for like 45 minutes straight, and you're just getting the shit beat out of you. But anyways, it was so much fun. Always had fun. But what was funny was we ended up playing my old high school, right? So my high school guys, I knew everybody that came, right? Because they were all fucking potheads anyways. And I was like, hey, what's up, guys? What you doing? Yeah. And they came, and they were like, hey, do you want us to get you out of here? And I was like, go get my bag. I was like, let's go, man. So I literally went back up into my division and packed an overnight bag, literally threw the fucking thing out the window from like the 3rd story, threw it out the window like I was escaping from fucking Alcatraz or something, and went back in, got up with the guys and hid in the back seat, grabbed my bag and drove all the way from Delafield to Madison. And man, when I tell you, I had so much fucking fun. We went to every party. We made up parties because I was back, and people were having a fucking ball. I mean, everybody was doing crazy shit. People were, I remember people losing their shit, whatever. But I got fucking hammered, like hammered, out of control drunk, and ended up, I don't remember all of this. This is actually from the stories I was told, and there's nothing but truth. So what happened was we went to a party on another side of town, and the buddies I was with, we kind of got stuck there. And my buddy's like, dude, I'm stealing a car. And I'm wasted. So I'm like, yeah, you're not, whatever. I'm probably going to end up walking, whatever. And he actually stole, I don't know if you guys know this company, Roto-Rooter. Have you ever heard of Roto-Rooter? He stole a Roto-Rooter van. I'm not kidding. So I was sitting in the back.
Rolling billboard down the road.
Yes, and it was like 2:00 in the morning. You know what I mean? And what's funny is and I remember bits and pieces of this shit because I remember being in the back of the Roto-Rooter van getting slapped all over the place by wrenches and boxes and stuff. So I know what he's saying is what really happened. It's true. But anyway, so we end up making back to the other side of town and, falling asleep at my buddy's house that, stole the van, which he got rid of a couple of blocks down the street and threw the keys, all that shit. So I fell asleep, wake up, and literally 3-4 inches from my face, I wake up and I see my father. He's looking at me. Yeah. And he's looking at me like, get the fuck in the car now. Right. And I'm like, oh shit, and I'm like hammered and just tore up from the night before. I'm like, all right, let's go. So he ends up taking me back to the military school the next day. Right. I went AWOL for 18 hours and it was the craziest 18 hours of my life. So we go back to military school and I get in front of my division commander, who was one of the coolest motherfuckers I've ever met in my life. He was a retired Sergeant Major Poe. I'll never forget that guy. Fucking wonderful person. If he's still alive today, I fucking would love to talk to that dude. But he just stared at me when I got in front of him. He's like, are you done? I'm like, yes, sir. Yes, I'm done. I'm going to go to my room now. Can I get some sleep? He's like, yep, go to bed. But so end result, this is where it gets crazy. So I ended up going back to military school after I enlisted in the Navy, right? Because I wanted to see Sergeant Major Poe. I wanted to see a couple other people, because the school age range was, I think, from 7th grade to 12th grade, right? So there were actually, and it was a year or two after I joined the Navy that I went back. And what was crazy is when I went back, I actually ran into one of the kids that was in 7th, 8th grade that used to, look up to me when I was in high school there, and he comes up to me and I'm in my dress whites and stuff, and he's like, holy shit, it's Mund. I can't believe it. Yo, everybody, Mund is here. And I'm like, dude, these motherfuckers don't know me. They don't know me. You know me. They don't know me. He's like, no, bro, everybody fucking knows you. I'm like, what are you talking about? What have y'all been telling them? Right? But he's like, no, man, it's crazy. Everybody still talks about you to this day because whenever anybody leaves for one night and comes back, we call it pulling a Mund. And I was like, okay, cool. That's actually pretty fucking cool. Pulling a Mund. So
you get a plaque on the wall.
I'm telling you, I have my own fucking building by the time I'm done with this shit. It's going to be Mund Hall.
Mundall,
where everybody goes to get fucked up. No, but that kind of leads me into the next part of this that I want to get into. It's just that feeling of that the military school, gave me. It made it clear to me about one thing, and that was joining the military, one way or another. The original plan was to Yeah, be a fucking devil dog. That was going to be what I wanted to do, you know. But
you're built for it with those kind of stories because most of the jarheads.
Oh, come on, man! You think Navy sailors don't have stories up that? That's what we do for half of them.
Well, not wearing those cute uniforms you guys wear. I mean, those.
Hey. You eat Cracker Jacks too, don't lie. No, but I started really knowing then at that point that joining the military was something I knew I was going to do. My father was in the military during the Vietnam War. He was a sailor himself, but he was a boilerman. So he was one of the guys on the USS Ranger, at the bottom of the ship, doing their business there. But I didn't know exactly how I was going to be able to do it because I couldn't even get through high school. Honestly, it was very difficult. It wasn't like I didn't have the aptitude and the, mind for it and couldn't figure things out on the paper. It had nothing to do with that. It was the fact that I was fucking bored when I was listening to the teachers all day. I didn't want to fucking deal with them. I would rather cuss them out, call them a bitch, get suspended, then I could go home, fucking smoke some weed and just chill out for the rest of the day. And that was my life. And thank God for this program that they had there at the time. It's called Work and Learn, which I've come to find out a couple of years later that they no longer have that program, which sucks for a lot of kids, I think. But what it was I would work either during the day or at night, and then at the other time, come in and do schoolwork. So I was working, and I worked a lot. I had 5 jobs because they set them up for you, of course. Like one was in construction, one was working with an elementary school that I used to go to when I was a kid. Also worked at New Orleans Takeout, which was an awesome New Orleans food spot, and then I went to school at the other time, and I was playing football too. So it ended up working out, and I ended up graduating high school 6-7 months after my class did, but I did get a diploma from the same high school.
Man, well, here's what's cool about that. And really, it's funny how we have some similar stories. I didn't do the military academy, but, I did a lot of stupid shit as well. But I had what was called co-op. And same thing. You went to school a half day and you worked a half day.
Mm-hmm.
And I did odd jobs. I did fucking bakery. I did a couple of fast food joints. I worked in a fucking childcare, which was the funniest of them all. But that's the only reason I got out of high school. Was, I know, this fuck up, it had people, had me watching their kids, which I still don't understand, but that is literally the main reason I was able to make it through school, because I had teachers who were like, look, we're going to pass you just so we don't get you back next year,
That's pretty messed up.
Yeah. So, but I mean, but for a lot of kids that, are built like you and I, you have to have programs like that. Yeah. Because we're not just going to sit there in class and listen to your stupid shit you're teaching, No,
I got better things to do. Yeah. I could go have a 2-hour recess,
Right.
Oh, dear.
Or you can do like I do and just walk across the street and sit in some random dude's yard and smoke a cigarette while I'm looking at the security guards. I mean,
Did the exact same. No, I smoked with the security guards. We had a smoker's wall, and the security guards would be right there lighting one up with me. They're like, hey, what's up, bud? Very cool guys. Ron was one of the guys. I still remember him. But yeah, so I realized I knew I was going to be in the military. Didn't know how, didn't know what way I wanted to go, but knew that it was going to be part of my life at that point. Then I robbed somebody, and I met a woman. So, story as old as time, Donnie. Story as old as time.
So
this is where the fire comes in.
Oh God, I just can't imagine the nice dinner time meals that you guys had, and you're sitting with another nice couple, and you're like, "How'd you meet?" "Oh, I robbed a guy."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was rough. Yeah, we had set this guy up, and we were like, hey, we got all this stuff. Why don't you come buy it from us? With the whole thought process in mind, we were going to rob the guy, and he ended up meeting us, and it went through, but it didn't go through the right way. If there is a right way, oh God! But we ended up not getting any money from him, so because he didn't bring any, or he left it in another pocket. Fuck it, I'm done with this story. Moving forward. So that's when I met my wife, my first wife. And, you know, at that point and where I was with my life because of the shelter home time, because of, you know, getting kicked around and being 7 different places, you know, I started living with her. And my ex-wife's African American. She's black. And she of course still has, but at the time there was 6 other grown black females in that house. And I was the white guy there, like, hey everybody, you know, how y'all doing? But it worked out very, you know, and I got nothing but love for, you know, for Jennifer, my ex-wife, and, you know, now her boyfriend, Coy, and, you know, all that great stuff. They're great people, her family included. But no, I started living with her and then started selling more drugs out of her house. And it got to the point that I knew this shit had to get started. Like, I had to start moving on forward with my life one way or another. And if I didn't, I really was going to end up shot because her cousins were doing a lot of crazy shit and they were staying at the house. And, you know, I was like, man, I got to do something. And that's when I went to the Navy recruiter office and, you know, decided to go enlisted, and they accepted me, thank God. And then April happened. April of 2005. April of 2005 was a big fucking month for me, okay? Huge fucking month. So, yeah, April 1st, 2005 was the day I found out my first daughter was going to come into the world, little Jordan. And if you have ever had to make a phone call when you're 18 years old and you got to call your father and mother and everybody else on April 1st that you're going to have a kid, it's not the easiest thing in the world.
Right.
Because, you know, the first thing is like, hey, Dad, I'm going to be a dad. And he's like, yeah, good one. April Fools. Yeah, like, great job, Chuck. You're full of shit. And I'm like, no, I've got the test to prove it. And yeah, so that was tough. So about 7 days later, my ex-wife's father came in, you know, and he was like, you're going to marry my daughter. And I was like, well, you know, I was planning on doing that anyways, but we'll say it's your idea, you know, kind of thing. And he ended up taking us over to the courthouse and we ended up getting married. So April 8th, 2005, I was married. And then April 18th, I was in boot camp. It was crazy as hell and a lot to take in. And what's weird too is I was sitting in one of the rooms there at Great Lakes, of course, in Illinois. And then we had this guy come up. He was a chief. And I remember him saying something. I remember to this day. And I remember when he said it, I knew he was talking to me. And I was like, shit, I fucked up, you know? So he said something and he goes, some of you are here right now because you thought you were going to get married before you joined the Navy, and you were going to get more money, and you were going to be able to take care of a family and all this shit. And you know what? You fucked up. you fucked up. And I swear to God, I'm sitting there, Donnie, like looking, and I was sitting, you know, cross-legged there on the deck, staring up at this guy, you know, because I'm a little airman, and I'm like, shit, he's talking to me. And he's like, you fucked up because you decided to marry for lust instead of love. And it's going to suck for you. And I don't remember what he said before that. I don't remember what he said after that. I just remember he said that. So I went through boot camp, you know, got out a couple of months later, of course, you know, the 8-week process. Went to Mississippi and did my rating A school there, and then went to my first duty station in Florida. That was a crazy ass time too, because a lot was figured out about myself and who my ex-wife was and who I didn't want to be with, which really sucked because after my first daughter was born, my second daughter was born 13 months to the day after that.
Oh, wow.
So by the time I was 20 years old, I had 2 kids and a wife, and I was living on base. But the good thing was, and I don't know how some kids do it that are in the military now, that was my motivation. My kids were a huge pillar in my life to be a good person, you know, and knowing where I came from and all the bullshit that I did, I was like, I need to do something. I need to make sure these kids have everything that they need, because my dad wasn't the guy that, you know, was the one to talk to. You know, he's very quiet, and the only thing I still really talk to him about to this day is, you know, the Green Bay Packers, and, you know, that's about it. But either way, that made me motivated to do something great. And I mean, I was on my way, Donnie. I was on my fucking way to, I had a plan. My goal joining the Navy, man, I wanted to fly fucking fighters, man. That was what I wanted to do. And even when they came in and they asked me, they were like, hey, what do you want to do for a job? I don't fucking care. Get me as close as you can to an aircraft. Let me do the fucking rest. I started working really, really hard. And, you know, I was there every morning at 5 o'clock, and I was running reports for the guys. I mean, I was getting great evals. You know, I was on my way. I put on 3rd class within 2 years. And I'm not saying that's anything to be, you know, happy about. It was just, that's how long it took me. And I made it first time up, scored in 99 percentile, you know, like getting paid right away. It was great, you know. But I had some buddies, you know, in the Navy that were partiers. And this is where it all went downhill. I had my buddies over one night for drinks, and just like always, it was on base. It was easily accessible. Everybody was having fun. You know, people were getting fucked up, blah, 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 and really, really drunk, and thought it would be a great idea to put my kids in the car and drive away. And she was set on doing that. And my mission at that point was to stop her. Because I told her, there is no fucking way on God's green earth you are getting in any vehicle and driving any. And when I tell you she was messed up, I mean, I wouldn't have let her drive anyways, but it was terrible. Like, why would you even? She really wanted to get in the car and drive down the street to a friend's house, like literally walkable distance to go, and you really want to do it. It's right fucking there. Go do it. But she's like, no, I'm getting in the car. I'm taking the kids with me. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, there's no way in hell that's going to happen. And she was like, oh, yeah, boom. And that's when she started punching. She started biting, you know, my ear, my face, my neck, scratching all over my body. And I stood in the doorway, and I took every piece of that, you know, because I've never put my hands on a woman, especially my wife at the time. And, I mean, you probably seen first person what could happen to a man that hits back, or, you know, especially military, and then there's alcohol involved. I was like, you know what? I'll take my beating. I don't give a fuck. I can handle that. You know, it's for my kids. That's no problem. So I took the beating, whatever, and I made a phone call because I didn't know what to do. Man, I was still young. I was a kid. And I called my LPO, which is leading petty officer at the time. I called him up and I said, hey, my wife's here. She's going crazy. I don't know what to do. Please give me some idea of what the next step is, because I don't know what it is. And he's like, call the police. I said, okay, cool. I'll call the police. So I called the police. Police came, you know, base police, of course. And they came to the door. They could see everything already, you know, because she was still screaming and being belligerent, you know, and I had stuff all over my face, you know, scratches and bite marks on my arms and my chest and all over the place. And, you know, the policeman starts to talk to me. He's like, so what happened? You know, I gave him the whole spiel. And he's like, so have you had anything to drink? I was like, yes, sir. I've had, you know, like 3 or 4 beers. You know, I'm not drunk. You can tell right now I'm very coherent. I called you, all this, you know. And he's like, yeah, but you're underage. And I was like, yeah, well, what's your point? I called you here to help me. And he's like, no, turn around. I'm putting you in the car. I have to take you in. And that was the moment everything changed, for my career at least. And for the relationship, you know. And I got taken in, and they booked me. You know, the command came and got me out and all this stuff. But at that time too, you know, it became an alcohol-related incident. It's on my record. I ended up going to captain's mass, which I'm sure you know what that is. And, you know, I ended up getting defrocked, sent to restriction, and all of these things. And at that time, too, Donnie, I was on my way to being in a program called Seaman to Admiral and going through the pilots program. I was accepted, and after you have a captain's mass, you know that goes away.
Yep.
So it became difficult after that to really do anything, you know, with the Navy. I felt like, oh my God, like what's the point? You know, like I'm not going to be able to do anything I want with being a pilot. I'm not going to be able to be a commissioned officer. I'm not going to be able to do anything. And it took me to actually get in front of the skipper and the commanding officer. And he asked me before he laid down the sentence, and he's like, do you want to be in the Navy? And up to that point, man, I was FTN. If you don't know what FTN is, it's fuck the Navy. I was fuck the Navy, fuck the Navy, fuck the Navy, fuck everywhere I was going. But I got in front of the skipper. He asked me that question. He's like, do you want to be in the Navy still? And I said, for as long as the Navy will have me. And I surprised the shit out of myself when I said that, too. I'm not kidding. I was like, did I just say that shit? I've been FTN all over. No, okay, I did. But I went through that. You know, I got busted down dealing with all that stuff. And about 3 weeks later was when I found out that my wife cheated on me. And the way I found out was walking into the bathroom after working to her with her wrist slit. And she was laying there with the kids, you know, in the next room. And she just said, you know, she was sitting there crying and bleeding. And she's like, I cheated. I'm sorry. You know, I'm so sorry. And at that point, you know, I called the police again, of course. I had them come get her. And she went to a facility for approximately 3 weeks. You know, brought the kids to see her as much as I could. And then I was ready for deployment. My first deployment on the USS Theodore Roosevelt. As things, even now, as I say them, they start to make sense on where it led to and how it got there kind of thing. Because after I, you know, had to go, because I had to go to another command, I was actually set up to go to the State 21 and go to Japan for a little while too. I then went to a helicopter command in Jacksonville because it was easy for them. I was already stationed there anyways, and they were deploying on the USS Theodore Roosevelt. And, you know, I sent her and the kids back to Wisconsin at that point. I was like, you know what? You need to go be with family because I can't be there. You know, and thank God that was the last time she ever came to Florida. That was the last time, you know, we really were going to try and make anything work. So she took the kids, and then I went on my first deployment, which was wild as hell. Wild as hell. It was a fucked up deployment in the first place because we went around the Horn of Africa, and this was during the time of Captain Phillips. You know that movie? Yeah. So I actually did some stuff out there in the Gulf of Aden on the USS San Antonio because they flew us off on the helicopter. We went over to the USS San Antonio, and we did some of the pirate ops out there with the SEALs and, you know, took down, I think, about 13 pirates, I think was the end result. I think that's what my little award thing says. But anyways, that was the time I met wife number 2. Yeah. That was a really terrible, terrible time too. So no, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. So yeah, this when I met my second ex-wife now. I
don't mean to laugh, but
yeah. But I met her. We were in the same command together, and you know things were just. I should have known. That's all it comes down to. A lot of the stuff that I've been through in my life, I put myself there in the end, and I know that. She was one of the, oh, God, she's probably going to end up hearing this too, and she'll agree, worst decisions ever. And she'll agree. She was off the chain. She was wild. She was, and at first that was one of those things that, you know, you kind of get drawn to, especially as a 23-year-old kid. You're like, whoa, she don't give a fuck. Like, cool. I love hanging out with you. Yeah. And now I realize half the time I was with her, I was fucking drunk anyways. But I was with her for 8 years. And those were probably the hardest years of my life. And it wasn't just because of being away from my kids, you know, which I get all of my kids. I have 3 kids, Donnie. I got 3 kids. I got Jordan, Aubrey, and Braden. Jordan's 12, of course, now. About to turn 13 this month. Fuck. It sucks. I hate saying it out loud. And then she's going to turn 12 in December, and Braden is 7 years old. Of course, the 2 I had with my first wife, the 2 girls, and then Braden I had with my second wife. But anyways, it was a very, very terrible relationship built on a foundation of just alcoholism and just bad decision making. And she was a very hard person to please. Not just, you know, I'm not trying to say anything, you know, about that hard to please. Okay, like, come on, no. I mean, like seriously, like there fucking was nothing I could do to make her happy, and all I did was strive to do it, and I couldn't. But it led to a lot of bad situations. I mean, cops were called multiple times for different things. I remember there was one year too. She got into a fight with her sister in my front yard. And they were literally punching each other. Her sister's husband started getting in on it and fighting too. And this was on base. This was on a military installation. And they were throwing down at 8:30 at night, you know? And it was one of those things, all I could think about was my son at that point. I didn't care about what the fuck was going on with her. I literally saw what was going on outside my front window, walked out there, said, hey, y'all need to quit this shit, grabbed my son, and went back upstairs and held him in his room, you know. It was all I could do, and she flipped out on me, of course, because I didn't help her when a man was putting her hands. I don't give a fuck about anything you're going through when my son is the one watching you. He becomes the focal point, not you, and whatever dumb decision you got into. I mean, she would do some crazy shit, man. She would come at me with hammers, stuff. Oh my God, when she was pregnant, oh my God, it was the worst. It was the worst thing in the world, Donnie. Like, she came at me with a knife because I drank all of the high C or some shit. Like, it's like, why would you do that? Like, out of all the pot, like, oh my God, crazy. But no, that one. That relationship ended, you know, it took 7-8 years for it to end, but I was only married to her for a year at the end there. Her and I were going through things as we always did, and she decided she wanted to, you know, take a step back, which I was like, yeah, great idea, do that, okay. And we were in a separation kind of thing for a little while, I guess, but still trying to make things work. She went out, you know, and she was living with a friend of mine, and, you know, it was a mutual friend, both ours. And I went out one night and told her, hey, you need to stay with Braden and, you know, chill out with him because I'm going to go out. I'm going to have some fun. So I went out. I had fun. I got drunk. Pretty good. It was a good time. I didn't get, you know, white girl wasted or anything, but I was pretty hammered. Came back home. She was there. And you know what? I was like, I have a feeling something's going on. Let me check her phone. And I checked her phone, and she was doing stuff. Lots of stuff. And apparently with one of the guys that was living with her. So the mutual friend that we had a friend that was living there too, and that's who she was staying with. Mm. And that's how I found out. So in a drunken stupor, I just went crazy. I didn't hurt anybody, but, you know, I pushed the TV off the shelf. I ran downstairs and started breaking shit. I was just losing my mind. And, you know, that's when it ended for her and I. I'm just one of those people that, you know, there's certain things that you can't do in my relationship. You know, for other people it may work. There may be things that you can do, or not you in particular, but people can do out there that, you know, they want to stay with this person or something like that. For me, that was one thing that ain't gonna fucking stand. And I'm not gonna be that guy because honestly, I can't forgive that. So I let it go, you know. And around this time too was when I still in the Navy this whole time as all this shit is going on. And by this time, too, I had done 2 detachments for 6 months in Bahrain. The Navy was my focal point, besides my son, of course, at this time, because it was such a bad fucking relationship that I put everything I had into my job. Like, I would stay late until like 7, 8 o'clock at night, show up at 5 o'clock the next day, just so I didn't have to deal with shit at home. And I actually ended up picking up rank because of it. I mean, oddly enough, of course, And it was about a year after that. And that divorce was fucking terrible, by the way. Oh, God, she did not make anything fucking easy. It ended up being pretty cheap divorce, which, I actually am proud of. That I didn't spend a whole shitload of money getting, moving on from that relationship. But I think it was about a year after that, I put on chief. And I don't know what you know about making chief and stuff like that, but it's a big fucking deal. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that, man. We get our asses handed to us for weeks. And, just get put through the whole rigmarole of crazy shit. And it's because it's a fraternity. It is. It's the largest fraternity in the world, as a matter of fact. But yeah, I went through chief season, put on chief, and, I'm here where I am today. I left Florida, of course, where my son is now. Moved out here to Washington to be on the USS Nimitz. CDN-68. Fucking killing it out here.
And so, man, what a hell of a ride. I mean, the truth of the matter is our story is our strength, right? The shit we went through, the shit we've experienced and done, it's a mold. It's part of the process shaping us into what we need to become to take the next ride. So, unfortunately, everybody's got a shitty part of their story. They got a shitty, thing that they've stacked up against. But at the end of the day, you're ready for the next adventure. I know you're into some other shit now where you're a Navy chief and you got some other things going on that you're moving across. Walk us through that pretty quickly.
Absolutely. The big thing is pitch and rudder, man. Pitch and rudder, we do it all. I keep telling that to everybody because I'm still trying to find something that we can't do. Big part of it is challenge coins. We've done a lot of Navy, of course, but we've also branched out into the Army, Air Force, of course, Marines, and maybe Coast Guard. I don't know if we're going to do that yet. We're still waiting on that to become a branch. But no, I'm kidding.
What about Space Force?
Yes. Have you seen our Space Force coin?
No, I haven't.
The Space Force coin is epic. We did it in conjunction with the Salty Soldier. So Forrest Munden and James Shortway hit us up, and we love doing stuff with them, man. And it came out so cool because it's literally Buzz Lightyear with Trump's face on, Buzz Lightyear. And then on a backside, it's like there's like this spaceship, and it says, "Our forces are going to be huge." So, yeah, it's so cool. But yeah, so we're doing Space Force coins. We also do stuff for, police officers, firefighters, stuff like that too, emergency experts and stuff like that. Also, we do belt buckles, we do shirts, we do Funko Pop bobbleheads, we do coffee, we do, oh God, I hope I don't forget it. I'm about to go to the website and look to make sure. We do it all. That's the thing is, like, I'm dead serious. I'm trying to find something we don't do or we couldn't do. And, we just have the ability to work with some great manufacturers and get out some really cool shit.
Well, I'm seeing possibly some Success Champion coins here in the near future.
Oh, dude, don't play with my emotions.
I could always use a new sponsor. I didn't say I was paying for them.
Way to work that shit in there.
So if y'all heard it, anyway. I'm getting Success Champion Talent coins donated by.
Oh, did you see? We did do the military influencer comp.
Oh,
too.
Yep.
I don't know if you made it out there, but
I did.
We ended up doing those with Justin.
Yeah, I heard all about that. That
no, we are really trying to break out. Yeah. But we're trying to get into some other things now too. One of the big things is we wanted to start giving back in a different way. And that's where Forward to Glory came into play. Something we're still working on. It's a passion project of mine and Terry's because he went through the transition of getting out of the military just in June. He retired as a senior chief, and there were just holes in the process that, you know, he knew that we're missing. I know because I've seen it through a lot of different guys, you know, girls out here. And it's been hard for a lot of people. So what we did is we created Forward to Glory. And, you know, it's got now about 1,600 members and stuff. And we've got some really great people in there. We're doing lives and stuff. And I can also say right now, I'm getting Grunt Style to come on. Dan and Tim are going to come on, and they're going to talk to everybody about what they did to start the company and, you know, how it happened and where it went, you know. So that's the kind of stuff that we want to get out, is that people can succeed after the military, but you need to be ready. You need to be prepared. You need to be working on things. You can't just expect things to be done for you, which is a huge issue, I think, with a lot of military after they get out, is they're like, why isn't this being done for me? Why can't I do this? Like, no, now it starts. So that's a big part of it. And we started Coined. Coined is a group that we have in there, too, from Pitch and Rudder, which hopefully with probably some of your assistance and help, which you've already done for me and put me on some things, we're creating a podcast for, where we're going to get people on there and they're going to talk about the coin that meant the most to them, you know, because that's what we've seen more often than not, because it's sometimes hard to put a price tag on these fucking things.
Right.
Okay. It is. I'm not going to lie. You know, if it's not chunky and it's like not like a pound of metal in your hand, people are, why am I paying $10 for this? No, like, okay, I get that. Right. But people have coins. Like, I have a coin that I carry with me everywhere I go that's in my wallet, and it's 1.5 inches big, and it's flat as fuck, but I got it from somebody that means a whole hell of a lot to me, my sponsor through the Chief season. He was awesome, and he coined me the night after I made Chief, and I don't go anywhere without that fucking thing. And I wouldn't sell it to you right now for $1 million. I just wouldn't. That's my coin. So we're getting those stories from people, and that's what we're going to put on the podcast. You know, hopefully get some of those emotions out there and people, you know, having fun. That's what I want to do too. I want to have fucking fun, Donnie.
That's awesome, brother. That's awesome. Dude, I got to tell you, it's been a hell of a ride hearing your story and all the shit you've been through, man. Thank you for just opening up. I mean, the whole point of this show is everybody's got a freaking story, right? And, you know, you got to go through it to become it. And if you're not willing to share your story, then that shit's going to stay on the inside of you and just rot away. So good on you. Here's how I like to wrap up everything. And I do stump some people when I do this, so stand by.
Stump me.
If you were going to leave my audience, the champions who listen to the show, with a quote, a phrase, a motto, a mantra, something they can take with them on their journey, especially when they're stacked up and going through it, what would be that quote or phrase you would say? Remember this.
I would say, I take it from Vince Lombardi. And what he said was about the pursuit of perfection. You know, we will continue to pursue perfection, knowing all the while we will never achieve it. But in the pursuit of perfection, greatness is achieved. So that's what I would tell everybody. Keep striving to fucking do the best you can in every damn that you possibly can. And guess what? You're not going to hit the fucking mark. I don't care if you're an entrepreneur or you're in the military or you're doing 10 fucking million possible different things. There are going to be times where it sucks, but you keep pursuing perfection. I promise you, greatness is going to come to you.
That's awesome, brother. Should get that put on a coin.
Hell yeah. I'll make my own.
Right?
Making my own coin. Yeah.
Thanks, brother, for doing it. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Donnie.
Thanks for listening to Donnie's Success Champions podcast. If you'd like to hear more about our current guest today, or if you'd like to hear stories from our other guests on the show, come hang out with us on our website at successchancepodcast.com. I really appreciate you tuning in. If you need to reach out to me for any reason, you can catch me at Donnie@DonnieBoivin.com.